Good morning, children. Once again, I'm here with another topic of economics, and today's topic is exceptions to the law of supply. Right in front of you, you can see two figures I have drawn, and perhaps these are the exceptions to the law of supply. In the very first figure, you can see that the supply curve is parallel to y-axis. And the curve which is parallel to y-axis, the curve is called perfectly inelastic curve. So in this case, in the very first figure, the supply curve is perfectly inelastic. This curve is perfectly inelastic. It means with the change in price, the supply is not changing at all. Even if the price increases, we cannot increase the supply. It remains constant at OQ level. And the supply curve is parallel to the vertical axis. The elasticity is equal to 0. It cannot change at all. So children, there are certain commodities the supply of which cannot be increased or decreased at all. It can be in case of agricultural goods whose supply cannot be adjusted to market conditions. For example, a higher price of wheat may not get any response from the farmers because he cannot produce and supply more wheat, because the supply of wheat is almost fixed from one crop season to another. So the farmer cannot increase the supply of wheat even if the price rises. This can also happen in case of perishable goods, because perishable goods cannot be stored. Dairy goods, dairy products, fish, meat. So we cannot store them for a long period of time. So, and its supply cannot be changed in response to a change in price. So this can happen in case of perishable goods also. This can happen in case of rare postage stamps. This can happen in case of classical paintings, like the paintings of Mr. M.F. Hussain. Because he is no more, we cannot increase or decrease the supply of his paintings. This can also happen when goods are having some social distinction. Social distinction means these are the type of goods, those who command high prices only because of their limited availability. But still, higher prices need not result in a higher supply by the producers. Diamonds, they are highly valued in the society, but diamond is having limited reserves, so it is priceless. Even if the price rises, the seller cannot increase the supply of diamonds. So this is the case when supply curve is parallel to vertical axis, perfectly inelastic curve, and it also happens in very short period. In very short period when we cannot increase the supply of commodity. Time period इतना short है कि commodity की supply को increase कर ही नहीं सकते without changing fixed factors. So in that case, the supply curve becomes parallel to vertical axis. So many examples I had given you in this context, that what are the instances when the supply curve is parallel to y-axis. The second exception to the law of supply is a backward bending supply curve. You can see it is inverted C-shape curve. It is called backward sloping supply curve or backward bending supply curve, and it is a distinctive feature of labor. So this is the supply curve of labor. Supply of labor is a unique example of relationship between the wage rate and the working hours that the laborers would be ready to put in. So to begin with, every increase in the wage rate will induce labor to work longer hours. So every increase in the wage rate will increase the working hours of the laborer. But children, listen carefully. A point may reach when the labor may realize that working more has adversely affected his leisure time activities. So once he has reached this point, for example, in this case, once he's reaching at P2, the wage rate is reaching at P2, every further increase in wage rate presents him with an opportunity to give up some work hours and enjoy more of leisure. So the keyword in this case is that after reaching a certain level of wages, the laborer prefer leisure to work. This is the keyword, leisure to work. That means now no more he wants to work, he is preferring leisure. So the supply curve takes a backward bend in this case because the labor is willing to enjoy more leisure. That is why the supply curve of labor is backward bending. I repeat, this is a distinctive feature of labor. The supply curve of labor is always backward bending because after a certain hike in the wage rate, the laborer prefers leisure to work, and leisure to work becomes the key word of this. So these are the exceptions to law of supply when the law of supply doesn't hold good. One is the vertical supply curve and the second is the backward bending supply curve. The vertical supply curve happens in case of agricultural goods, in case of perishable goods, and in case of goods having social distinction. Whereas the backward bending supply curve is the supply curve of labor, where the labor after the certain hike in wages prefer leisure to work, and thus the supply curve takes a backward bend. Hope it is clear to you all. Now let's switch on to the next concept, and children, the next concept is movement along the supply curve and shift in the supply curve. So this is the next topic, movement along the supply curve and shift of supply curve. I think just listening to these two terms, you could have recalled of movement along the demand curve and shift of demand curve. Almost they are same with a simple difference. Now let's start with movement along the supply curve. So movement along the supply curve is further of two types. One is extension and the other is contraction. You remember law of supply? What do we say in law of supply? We say when price increases and because of which supply also increases, and when price decreases, supply also decreases, other things remains constant, it is called law of supply. So let's take the first part of law of supply, that is when quantity supplied rises due to rise in the price, it is called extension. And the second part, when quantity supplied falls due to fall in the price, it is called contraction. As simple. I repeat, when quantity supplied rises due to rise in price, that is when supply increases because of increase in price, this is extension. When supply decreases because of decrease in price, this is called contraction. I hope this is also clear to you all, and very easily you can draw the diagram also. And here I am showing you the diagram. This is the diagram. Look at the diagram. You can see when the price is increasing, supply is also increasing from Q1 to Q2. So here I have marked extension. When price is decreasing from P1 to P3, the quantity is also decreasing from Q1 to Q3. So this part of the curve, this side arrow, it is called contraction. If the curve is moving upstairs, upward direction, if the curve is moving towards the upward direction, it is extension. If this direction, downward direction, it is called contraction. Now the next part, children. Next is shift of the supply curve or change in supply. Change in supply happens when there is change in other factors. I repeat, movement along the same supply curve happens because of change in price. Movement along the same supply curve happens because of only change in price. And shift happens when price is constant but other factors changes. And that can be any other factor: price of related goods, goal of the firm, technology, taxation policy of the government, all those determinants that you have done in the previous lecture, children. So when any of the factor changes and because of that factor the supply is changing, it is called change in supply. Now change in supply is further of two types. One is increase in supply and the other is decrease in supply. Now, in brief, I'll make you understand what is increase in supply and what is decrease in supply. It's very simple, just like demand, children. When price remains constant and supply increases, it is called increase in supply. When price remains constant and supply decreases, it is called decrease in supply. This is in a simple manner we can explain this. And you can draw the diagram also. Here I am drawing the diagram for you. In simple sense, what we can say, the price is constant, the price is not changing. This is the supply curve. If it is shifting to the rightward direction from S1 to S2, we'll say this is increase in supply. And if it shifts to the leftward direction at the same price, let it be S3, this is called decrease. This is called increase in supply and this is called decrease in supply, because price is not changing at all. And this change can happen because of other factors, any other factors. For example, the price remains constant. There is shift in the supply curve towards the right side because of improvement in the techniques of production. Maybe the price of raw material has decreased. Maybe the prices of other goods has decreased. Maybe the taxes has been lowered down by the government. Maybe the producers, they are expecting fall in prices of goods in future, and maybe the number of sellers in the market has increased. That's why the supply is increasing. On the other side, if it is decreasing, it is shifting from to the left side. It can be because of less efficient techniques, maybe because of rise in the price of raw material, rise in the price of other goods. Taxation policy of the government has changed and there is rise in taxes. They are expecting a rise in prices of goods in future, the sellers, and maybe the number of sellers have decreased in the market. So because of all these reasons, the supply curve has been shifted to the left side, that is decrease. And price of the commodity is not changing. Price remains constant. So because of other factors, this shifting is happening, that is increase or decrease. So when because of other factors the shifting happens, it is called either increase in supply, that is the rightward shift of supply curve, or decrease in supply, that is the leftward shift of supply curve. I hope it is very simple and clear to you all. You can draw the diagram. Now I'll be switching on to the meaning that is given in your book. For increase in supply, the meaning that is given means more quantity at same price and same quantity at lower price. You can see the meaning that is given in your book. I have already sent you the PDF. So this meaning says increase in supply. So this is for increase in supply, more quantity at same price and same quantity at lower price. So if I draw the diagram, sorry if the curves are not proper because in one hand I am holding the mobile phone. So suppose this is the initial supply curve. What we are writing, more quantity at same price. So this is the price. At same price, the producer is supplying more quantity, that is S2 and S2. So this is increase in supply. Now we can draw same quantity at lower price. So this is same quantity, first initial curve, draw perpendicular to the x-axis. So same quantity at lower price. So for your understanding, I think you can learn this. More quantity, same price, same quantity, lower price. And for decrease in supply, less quantity, same price, same quantity, more price. But if you're not getting this, you are finding it a little more complicated, you can go for this. That is, when the price remains constant and supply curve shifts to the right side, it is called increase in supply. And when the price remains constant and the supply curve shifts to the left hand side, it is called decrease in supply curve. So that's all for today, children. Listen and see the figures and explanation carefully and take a note of it. Thank you. See you.